Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Mooseface as he travels the Vortex and arrive at episode 541, where we believe in two things, guns and soup. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How's it going, guys?
Pretty good. Did you guys do anything this week? I played Lost in Time.
Yay!
I'm loving it.
You liking it?
Yeah, it's such a fun game. I like the fact that it's a passive game and you don't have to really do much. You can do other things while you're kind of doing it. So that's
that is pretty nice. How far are you?
Let's see. I'm in the okay, hang on a second. I'm in the reverse polarity event, and then in the
everyone is.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying I am doing that because I was going to say episode 10. I'm actually about to finish up. I've got the little green bar that says I can move on to the next episode, but I'm actually trying to pad out some of my characters, because what I'm finding is the further in the episodes along that I am, you don't have to restart on your levels on your characters. And so so I'm trying to get, because what happened to me is on the last episode, and I will encourage anybody to stay up with your characters. Try to even level them up evenly. Because what happened, and of course K9, you get a whole bunch. I think I had 147 K9s, and I was only at level 1 or 2. And then when it came up in the last episode, I needed to level him up in order to boost one of my waypoints. And I had him at level 1, and he needed to be at level 4. And so I had to go through, I was stuck on that one where I couldn't automate it, because I was so low. And so what I've decided, I'm going to go back. That's why I'm hanging out in this episode, because I'm doing it so that I could kind of even everybody out. I don't plan to level everybody up, as far as it could go, but I'm going to get everybody kind of even so that I'm gradually bringing them up as I progress through the episodes. So that was one of the things I learned about it. So that's a tip I would give to people that are playing.
I've stayed up with K9, but it gets hard when you get up to like level 5, because it takes 1,000 of the thingings to do. And in fact, the one I'm on, episode 15, in order to automate something, you had to have a level 5 K9. So I mean, it is good to stay on top of it. It's just the challenge becomes when you have the rares. And they're not quite as easy to level up because you don't get as many cards.
I'm glad you said that, because now I'm really glad that I leveled up K9 to level 4, because if I'd have been that far behind, because you can go on. I mean, you can still do it without automating some of the waypoints. You can in fact, I think of the first couple episodes, I had a few waypoints that maybe weren't even automated, like the higher ones, the later ones that you unlock. And so, and I moved on with those. So you don't have to, but you have to do a lot of popping into the game and doing it. You're doing a manual. What are those called? Hinnock matter. You have to do a lot of those. You have to do that a lot. So I've been
you'll get new characters,
right?
And then, like I'm on my level episode 15, I have the Pandorica and finally unlocked the second character. But to automate it, he has to be level 2, and I haven't got the cards yet for it.
Yeah, I got these.
So there's nothing I can do for it.
Same thing I thought was going to happen to me with Ashilda, but then I realized that she was only level 1. So when I got the card, and that's one of the nice things, is make sure you're keeping an eye on those monitors at the top that have the little missions or goals, because those things help a lot. In fact, I didn't realize that sometimes, until the Ashilda one, I didn't realize sometimes those are a character, and you have to get you have to finish one of those missions in order to unlock the character. That's what happened with Ashilda, and I thought, oh no, she's going to be a level 2 before I could do anything, but luckily she wasn't. That's the other thing, is she's one of my missions right now. In fact, I've got one of those that has the little lock on it, because I only have 2 missions left, and one I'm only 6 cards from finishing, which is one of the collect cards, and then the upgrade of Shilda. So I'm assuming one of these cards that I'm going to get to finish that mission is going to be enough of Shilda cards to level her up. So.
Well, and definitely make sure you get in and get your free Kerblam box.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah,
4 hours or so.
There are a lot of things that I think we need to point out to people who are playing this. Jump in there, get those Kerblam boxes. If you're playing this thing passively, go ahead and click on the ads. Because if you're playing,
I do that all the time.
If you're playing passively, you're usually watching TV or listening to a video or something, and along with this. And so there's just like 30 to 45 second ads. You can kind of set it aside and not even pay attention to the ad as long as you, after it's done playing, you hit the little X and go back to the game. Because you get, do the 2 times, you can charge up to 4 hours to have 2 times everything. And
you can even go beyond 4 hours. You can get it up to like 12.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
For 12 hours long.
Each one of those gives you 4. Yeah, each one of those gives you 4 hours. And then, so do that. Do every time the little Hinnock, matter freebies come up there, do those in the Kerblam Man when he brings you those. Cause you need all that. It's really handy to have it around. Make sure you're powering up your waypoints when you're doing, I'm not preaching to you, Keith, you obviously know, but I'm telling people, listeners that, and Syl, I mean, don't be afraid to trade with Syl, because there'll be a lot of times that you have a lot of a character that you don't need, and you got to spend, spend points to get points in this game. So if you're sitting and just hoarding cards because you think you're going to need them later, I wouldn't, don't deplete yourself.
You'll get plenty more. Don't worry about it.
Don't deplete yourself of them, but definitely don't worry about getting, losing them all. The only times that I don't trade with him is if I don't have, at least more than 5 to trade with him. So.
Right. Yeah, me too. Enough to probably level up what I assume would
be
the next level.
What might be coming. Right. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's a lot of, I mean, there's not a lot to it, but you kind of have to think through. You don't want to, you obviously don't want to level up out of order, because sometimes if you level a waypoint up ahead of something else, then you don't have enough of the energy in order to do the last thing that you skipped over. So, you just got
there's been a couple times where I've upgraded characters that were in another area that I hadn't unlocked yet. And I was like, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that's where they were.
That's the same thing.
So when you're looking at them, look at the little logo underneath their name. It will show you what area they're in, so you can help keep them straight, since there are 2 different versions of Liz and a couple other people.
Yeah. And it's handy to keep your rare cards up to date, because sometimes most of those guys will add bonuses to all of the waypoints. So those guys are handy to do.
Oh yeah. Well, and everybody you level up will give you bonuses for whatever waypoint they're a part of.
Right,
so that's always helpful.
Yep. Anyway, that's what I've been doing most of the week.
I have downloaded it.
That's as far as you are. Well, hopefully you've gotten some helpful tips from us to.
Let's see, where am I at? Vorp. Yeah, what happened?
They're playing fast and loose with the continuity as far as this game goes, and you'll notice. I don't know.
That's kind of cool, though.
I don't want to spoil anything, but you'll notice some of the things that you're going, okay, I'll let that pass.
They try to justify some of it in the plot,
especially a certain Cybermen plot point that I just laughed and laughed and laughed when it happened.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yep, I know what you
mean. Anyway, so yeah, I've been doing that, and then Oscars. How'd you guys' Oscar ballots go? We tied.
I did really well.
We tied as a group, but
Keith was the best of the 3 of us, if I remember the numbers.
I got like 14.
Although
all
I would have done
was
terribly.
Very close in scores. So
yeah.
Did we talk about that last week or not? Or last time?
We haven't.
We have not recorded since.
We haven't recorded since Oscars.
So yeah, we actually it was a tie on the Pod versus Pod Oscar contest, and we decided, in the interest of fairness, that each team would pick a bad movie for the other one to watch. And I'm so looking forward to this. Let me tell you why. because Mel and I were on different teams. So I will get to watch 2 bad movies, one for each of them.
You can watch both.
Oh, and the ones we've been assigned.
What was the?
I say that having not seen them, I don't know.
What was the one that we gave to the girls, or the other team?
Barbed Wire, wasn't it?
Barbed
Wire. And we were given Problem Child 2.
Yeah, which
2, mind you.
I'm going to admit, the Problem Child movies, well, the second one's not as good as the first one. Those are guilty pleasures for me. I enjoyed watching those.
I think I've seen the second one a long time ago.
Did you guys do anything else this week?
I watched Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Finally.
What'd you think?
Yeah. I thought it was good. I struggled with some of it, just trying to understand how their multiverse stuff works, and I don't think they do a great job explaining it, but I like the emotional core of it and the journey that the characters go on, and what's his face, Waymond, did such a good job in it. He absolutely deserved that Oscar. He was probably the standout part of the whole movie for me.
He was so good.
And I could see your argument, Glenn, that sometimes it got a little silly just to be silly. And I definitely see some of that, especially with some of the fight sequences and how they go about jumping into the new body or whatever, however you want to explain that. Overall, I thought it was good. I don't know if I loved it, but I was glad I watched it. Sean, did you do anything?
I've been working so much. It's been just insane. We've been very, very, very busy. And I feel like part of that is because I'm still playing catch up from the cruise. Just so I really haven't had a whole lot of time for things. We did sneak down to Planet Comic-Con. We did not work it this year, but we snuck down on Sunday and nabbed a couple of autographs. I got William Daniels, who everybody knows as Mr. Frenny from Boy Meets World.
No, he was Kit from Knight Rider.
But he was also Kit from Knight Rider. So apparently he was on St. Elsewhere, which I did not know.
He was. Yeah.
But I will forever know him as John Adams from 1776. So that was the autograph that I got, and I was extremely happy. And then we also picked up Henry Thomas and got him on the E.T. record. So I have 2 alumni from that movie now on my picture disc, which I'm very happy. Next up, I'll get Spielberg, and swing for the fences.
Good luck for that. You probably get Drew Barrymore before you get Spielberg
or John Williams.
Yeah, well, you're running out of time there, maybe.
Oh, don't do that. No.
He's way up there.
We don't know. No.
He's way up there.
We do not talk about it. John is eternal. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
But it looked like it was another good show from what little we were there. I mean, we literally did an up and back kind of thing. So it was a quickie trip. And then Mel and I started watching Star Trek Picard, which I was regaling the guys with a little bit pre-show. And on the basis of a recommendation from a friend, we had not watched it at all. And he said, just jump right in start with season 3 and just go from there. And oh my God, it is fantastic. It is it's Star Trek greatest hits. It is the best show on television. It's well written. It's doing a lot of callbacks, and some of it is, fan service, and some of it is just this absolutely amazing, intricately woven into the story arc. That's like, yeah, I cannot recommend it enough. I have not seen seasons 1 and 2, but I don't feel like I missed anything, quite honestly. So very, very excited about that. And I hope this particular showrunner gets many, many, many more opportunities to hang out and play in the franchise, because they're good.
Cool.
You are invited on an adventure across all of time and space, in a completely random order. It's the Police Box in the Junkyard podcast. Jump in the TARDIS with your hosts,
Eric Gulbranson, Asad Kheshki,
and
Matthew Kressel.
Explore Doctor Who TV stories, audio adventures, and books, both novels and non-fiction. The Police Box in the Junkyard podcast. It's the entire Whoniverse on shuffle. The Police Box in the Junkyard podcast is a member of the Direction Point Network and is available about once a month wherever you find your podcasts. You are listening to Traveling the Vortex.
Hi, I'm Rupert Booth.
I am known as Paul Ferry.
And my name is Barry Williams.
Together, we host Time Ram.
Time Ram's a cruel mistress.
It's a random number generator.
That also.
We roll a number from 1 to 13, and that's our doctor. Then 1 to 300 for the story, and then we ram them together.
Even if it doesn't make sense.
Cruel, I tell you.
Time Ram, putting the wrong doctors in the wrong stories, so you don't have to.
You're listening to Traveling the Vortex.
All right, well, I have another something new 2-minute review this week. It is the second two parts of the 11th Doctor 4, and it is 4.2 and 4.3, so it's story 2 and 3. They're called The Yearn and Curiosity Shop. And I only have 2 minutes, and I'm going to try to get them both in, so I am not doing the synopses this week. I'm going to jump right in. So let me get the timer started. And here we go. So The Yearn sets itself up as a standard Doctor Who story. It's a base under siege, so yes, check. A small group of frightened individuals, check. TARDIS out of commission for most of the story, check. Apparently unbeatable outside threat trying to get in, check. That's basically what it is. And
I'm so excited about this story.
There's these feral beings. They're described as panther-like, and they're composed of energy. They're threatening the base, and the way that they breach the defenses eventually is very surprising at first, but it makes sense when something's revealed about it later. There's also a story that one of the characters on the base tells. It's a very poetic story, and then there's an kind of an aha moment later when you realize that it sort of reveals some of the plot without, it's a nice bit of foreshadowing of what you discover. Safai Engar, in the part of Valerie, they really shine in this story. The character at one point is let alone, and she proves that she can stand on her own without the Doctor. The small bit of a romantic plotline in this one. It feels kind of out of place, but I think maybe it helps expand her characterization. And then there's several 11th Doctor moments. One where he's saddened after a crate that they find isn't filled with intelligent mice, to which he quips, never is. Curiosity Shop. The story starts pretty much in the middle without really setting anything up. You're kind of thrown into and expected to work things out as you go. And Valerie, and did I mention she's a cyborg? Because I don't think I've done that yet. Well, she's selling parts of herself for food. And the Doctor seemingly is nowhere. She's selling these parts to a man who is in a junkyard. His name's Mr. Foreman, and he has a police box that he calls Barbara. And so there's not much else I can say except for the Doctor has seemingly lost his mind, and several of his personalities, his past personalities based on past incarnations, they start coming forward in this.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it all works out in the end, but I found the story a little bit meandering and wordy, but it does turn out to be a very interesting concept. And that's my new 2-minute review. All right, well, let's move on to news.
Well, Deadline has an article about how there's going to be a Doctor Who spin-off featuring Gemma Redgrave and units.
Yay. Although I should say we sort of saw this coming, didn't we? Because I think it's only been back at the first of the year maybe it was the end of last year when we were talking about Russell T. Davies coming in and expanding the universe, because he had made comments in interviews that, this is what really they should have been doing all along. And they sort of tried doing that in his first tenure. But I don't think they really got the ball rolling so much as they could have. And I think this is his second go round. And I think that he's ready to full-fledged jump into this expanded universe of Doctor Who. And I think this is evidence of that, the fact that Kate Stewart's coming back in her own series.
I think what you meant to say is that we had a Doctor Who multiverse the first time around. We just didn't have the infrastructure we needed to support said multiverse.
Well, I wouldn't call it a multiverse, but yeah, I know what you mean. Franchise universe, yeah. No, you're right. We didn't have the support. I think now that it's all under, at one house and one set of rules, I think it'll help. I'm excited though. I mean, we talked about this when they were spinning Torchwood and Sarah Jane Adventures off. The more Doctor Who, the better for me.
I think it's a great idea. Obviously, Big Finish has proved it's a viable franchise and successful. If there's many box sets as they've done with Kate Stewart, so I look forward to seeing what they're going to do with it on television.
Yeah.
Hey, more Gemma. I am excited.
Yep. And of course, with the backing of distribution on Disney Plus, I think that's only still a help. Mm-hmm. That Disney Plus money is going to go a little further. What else we got in the news?
Well, the BBC has announced a new special multi-platform story called Doomsday, which introduces a new character on a 24-hour pursuit of the Doctor. Someone has sent literal death after doom. She can only outrun it for 24 hours unless she can find the Doctor. So it's going to be a standalone multimedia series, which allows the fans to follow Doom, the universe's greatest assassin, as she travels through space and time looking for the Doctor.
It reminds me of a picture I saw. Somebody posted a picture of Chase Masterson. It said, greatest assassin of all time. And then it posted a picture of Doom, and it said, dollar store version. I was like, oh no.
Did you guys watch the video that they... Yeah. I wasn't overly impressed by... I'm sure this actress is very good, and she's a stand-up comedian, a comedy sketch artist.
Yeah.
I just felt a little too cheesy and over the top, but I'm willing to kind of reserve my judgment to see what they do.
Well, that's kind of where I landed on as well. When I watched it, there was just something a little uneasy about it, but I had to remind myself that when it was announced that Catherine Tate was going to be on Doctor Who, I sort of thought, okay, how are we going to do that? And then I thoroughly enjoyed Donna, so maybe. I don't know that Russell has as much hand in this, but I hope since he's kind of over it all, he's got at least some sort of guiding authority on this. Although it sounds like this is something that's been from just some of the back chatter. This is something that's been in the works for a while, and for the 60th, and it has come around to be included in sort of everything because Russell came in and some things sort of changed for the 60th year, but this was one of the things they decided to go ahead and fold in. So I guess we'll see.
It says it's going to kick off on digital channels later this year, whatever that means, followed by products from Doctor Who Magazine, Titan Comics, Penguin Random House, East Side Games, which is Lost in Time, Big Finished, and BBC Audio, each telling a section of Doom's story. So it doesn't look like it's going to cross over with the television series, at least not yet.
So it could be Time Lord Victorious, or it could be Shadows of the Empire.
Yeah. Well, Time Lord Victorious didn't even really pass. We hoped and thought it might, but it didn't even really pass over into the series either. I kind of hope this one at least gets a nod or a mention, since we'll actually have Doctor Who being constructed at the time that this idea, Time Lord Victorious, I think they missed the boat on not at least. I don't think that it needed to be an element of, like a plot point of one of the series shows, but I think it would have been nice to have a small, even if it was just a drop line that gave it a plot point, or a gave it a mention. And I think they have that opportunity to at least have a throwaway line that connects it canonically to the series.
Sounds like there's going to be 24 different stories, because it says each partner will create their own adventure for Doomsday, each focusing on one of the 24 hours Doom has left on the clock. And then there'll be a big finale on Doctor Who digital channels.
Well, I mean, digital channels could mean YouTube. It can mean Disney Plus. It could mean, digital channels is anywhere you watch videos digitally. So
I'm assuming it's going to be YouTube.
Probably YouTube. And the reason they say digital channels is because what they'll do is they'll post it on YouTube, and then they'll, share it with Facebook, and they'll share it with Twitter, and and you'll be able to watch it on Twitter, and you'll be able to watch it on Facebook, but it actually is being housed at their YouTube channel. So, but who knows? We'll see. I say, the more Doctor Who, the better. I kind of had hoped for something a little more substantial, but it's still early days. Although it feels like we're running out of time. We're already in March. We're almost to the end of March, and they haven't done a lot of 60th anniversary stuff. And I understand that the 60th anniversary is actually in November, but I sort of feel like if you're going to celebrate the year, do something a little bit throughout the year, and maybe this is what this will be, and maybe that'll fulfill that. But let's do a little something. Let's make it a year-long celebration rather than a 1 month or 2 week celebration. So
yeah, I'm reminded of, I think back to the 50th and how they had multiple different things all leading up to the 50th throughout the entire year. And it seems like they're not doing that this time.
Right.
But I also have to keep reminding myself we are actually going to get a 60th anniversary special. So it's not like we're just ignoring the anniversary completely.
Right. All right. Well, let's move on to our review. And we should say that we are picking back up in the Time War. We are rejoining the War Doctor as we review War Doctor Begins 2, Warbringer.
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, The War Doctor Begins, Volume 2.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and
obliterate.
The universe is at war. The Time Lords against the Daleks. In the face of tyranny, one can either fight, flee, or surrender.
You have another purpose, another destiny, as do all of your people.
Slaves to the Daleks? No, never.
I can help you fight it.
No, you said you'd come to save me.
Yes, now sleep.
You lied to me.
No, I just didn't tell you the whole truth.
It's a work of art! Glorious! A work of art!
Fellows, don't you see? Don't any of you see? It's the end of the world!
Big Finish. We love stories.
Consequences and Destroyer. The War Doctor and Veclin crash on a ravaged planet. On the fringes of the Time War, this world has its own battles raging. Elsewhere, Survivor works out how she came to be here. But these newcomers are harbingers of something terrible, following in their wake.
Bum, bum, bum.
Go ahead.
It was a story. It wasn't the best story. The timey-wiminess of the editing and doing the first installment last was an interesting take. In a way, I think it robbed it a little bit of some of the reveal. But there were some cool ideas. I'm not sure that they all worked for me. I did find elements that I liked.
I think what I liked about doing the format this way was it does make Case more of a mystery. Because if you started with the third story, which is the flashback story, which I suppose for anybody that hasn't listened to this, why are you listening to this? Because we're going to spoil it. But if you haven't listened to this before, the first two stories actually take place, as Sean was saying, after the third story. So their third story is kind of a callback or a flashback. But I think had they done that last story first, and clearly they constructed this way so they didn't have to, but we would have learned too much about Case and we wouldn't have built that mystery. Because with the Doctor being separated from Case and Tasman, we had to, Tamazan, we had to have those two separate things going until they came together there in that third story or second story. And so I think building that mystery of who Case was, and I just imagine waking up one day and you're a cyborg and you're like, wait a minute, I don't have any memory of being a cyborg. That to me is more frightening than waking up and not remembering who you are. Waking up, not remembering who you are, and you're a cyborg, that's frightening to me. So I like that they put us in that. But I think what they fail to do is they try to make us believe that she is a dangerous thing, but they don't go far enough to sell that idea. And then when they finally do, it's all in a off-screen event that happens when she finally gets the chip back. They put the chip back into her, and then there's like this blackout moment, and then they wake up to the Doctor and Tamazan explaining to her what happened. And I thought, okay, I don't know how you would do what happened in audio, but I also didn't want all of that to be off screen because it feels like now you're just trying to, advance the story quickly so we can move on to another part of it. So that was one of the things I think was fumbled as far as revealing who and building the mystery in anticipation of who Case was.
Another thing, while I appreciated the mystery of Case, having the third story last, or the first story be last, you're dropped into this and the Doctor is hell-bent on saving this planet and these people, and you don't know why. And this is not the Doctor that is hell-bent on saving people and planets. He's the one who does what has to be done in order to win the battles. And so the fact that he is so out of character for the War Doctor throughout this entire thing, until you find out why, puts me off the whole process. Now, had I gone through the first one and gone, oh wow, he really kind of, spoilers, screwed things up.
Right.
Now he's trying to make things right again. And you drop a line. I was just trying to, do what I used to do and be who I used to be. But it's just not enough throughout the story, the way they have it structured, to make it feel like it would be in character.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And there's even that moment in episode 2, or at the end of this one, I can't remember which, where he is spouting off about all the horrible things he's done. And it's like, okay, I'm tuning in for the War Doctor because I know he's done horrible things, and I kind of want to see some of those horrible things. There's a reason he's supposed to be a forgotten incarnation of the Doctor, and the reason the Doctor is trying to forget him, but we're not going there with him, and that makes me a little frustrated with Big Finish. I could excuse it for the first box set because it's post-regeneration and he's still trying to figure out who he is. But at this point, he's learned who he is, he knows who he is, and he's done horrible things and has accepted that. I want to kind of be on the road with him doing those horrible things and see him kind of start to lose his soul, for lack of better words, which would make his redemption at the end in Day of the Doctor that much better.
Yeah.
I think that's a dangerous slope. I on the one hand, I agree with you, but going back to what I had said long ago about not wanting to see the Time War because I didn't want to lose the mystique of it, I kind of feel that way about the War Doctor as well. The fact that whatever he did during this time frame was so bad that the rest of him built these little, encapsulated compartments and walled him off, and like, we don't think about it, we don't talk about it, we just, that was a thing, and we're going to leave it alone. It's like, wow, that must have been something. And I think the imagination of what could have happened is far greater than the telling of what did happen. There's also the element with how far can you go to villainize him?
Right.
With him still being the Doctor.
Right.
I was really pleased with John Hurt's performance in the 50th, because once they set up the mystery and then gave him to us, I was prepared for him to be grumpy, scary, Chancellor from V for Vendetta John Hurt. And he wasn't. He was the Doctor. And it was like, oh, okay, he's kind of cuddly.
That's what.
So going into War Doctor Begins and seeing how we're going to get there and seeing him still try to do the right thing, I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. But yet we know it's going to go bad.
See, I'm going to go back to what I said a week or two ago, or a review a few time ago. Maybe it was the first one we did. I kind of like the idea that his reputation now precedes him. Now, I will say that it does work for him to have done some pretty horrific things in order for him to sort of lock off this memory of him and, just not acknowledge this time in his life. But I think it could simply be because he did engage in the war and things weren't the way they could have been. He wasn't as doctor-like as he had been in his other incarnations. But I really like the idea of this reputation preceding him, and especially because he, as you said, comes across warm and cuddly, the grandpa figure in Day of the Doctor. For somebody that's gone through horrific things to be like that at that point, to me, is not right. It doesn't feel right. So that's why I like the idea of him continuing to, while he's trying to be this warrior, while he's set aside the doctor persona for a while, and he's actually battling in the Time War, which is something that he said he wouldn't do. I like the idea of his reputation, just really kind of preceding him and being worse than what we actually see. It's perceived worse than what we're actually going to witness. And that in reality, the Doctor was still there under the surface the whole time. And so I think that that's where they could go with this. And I think that that works for this story, because then it doesn't, even though there can be this grand, mystery of, well, he must have done these horrific things or whatever. That's no longer has to be a mystery to us. That's a mystery to the universe, because obviously, like I said, his reputation precedes him. But I like the fact that that's what he was doing, was he was maybe even unintentionally building up this reputation of this, oncoming storm, and he really wasn't.
See, and I can see part of that, but I also see I think in Day of the Doctor, he starts off as the more grumpy figure, and then it's through his interactions with his future incarnations and with Clara that he kind of softens throughout that entire story, and then becomes the cuddly grandpa. And near the end, when he finally goes, okay, this is what I have to do in order to make me that person, I need to do this. And being with his future selves softens him more than anything else could have ever done.
Well, I agree with that. I still think that premise still works, because I don't think he's not without...
He's still there underneath, yes.
Right, he's not without his mistakes, and he's not without his probably choices that could have been better had he not engaged in the Time War. So it's still there, and it still can be there, and still work to be that softening based on the fact that he interacts, he relearns himself by interacting with his future incarnations.
And I really like the idea that, his reputation does precede him, but I have a hard time thinking that his reputation precedes himself.
Yeah.
Because, he remembers what he actually did. And so if he's really, trying to scale it back and do kind of project a bigger persona than what he actually has, he still recognizes that he's doing that, and his future incarnations would then also know that and not be as harsh on him.
Well, let me put forth this then, and I think maybe we're rushing to the atrocities that he allegedly commits, and we're only in the second story,
that's true,
since his reincarnation, and I think he could go a long time building to those quote-unquote atrocities, and because I think even in this incarnation of a Doctor who's decided to be the warrior and set the Doctor persona aside and be something that he's not, I think even then there should be this struggle with trying to be the warrior and slipping back into his old ways. And I think that's what I see happening here as well, is he's trying to be this warrior. He's trying to be what is expected of him from Gallifrey, but it's hard for him to do because he's lived for so many years being one person, and so it's hard to become something else. And so I think this early on, I'm still very forgiving with him not being very War Doctor-like, because we've got a lot of stuff that can happen between now and Day of the Doctor, the time of the moment. So there's that.
I really like the idea that you just put forth of old habits that he just slips back into. That kind of fixes a lot of it more for me than even it just being early on in his timeline, because they talk about when he's trying to prove that he is the Warbringer to this society, he goes on a spiel on all the horrible things he does, and we hear about some of them, and those sounded like absolutely horrible things. So that part of it doesn't feel like, oh well, he hasn't done them yet, but the idea that it's just old habit to try to fix things and be the good guy that he has to fight against, I like that idea, and it helps soothe why he does it when he does it.
I also got the perception in this story that he was saying some of the things he was saying, and I got the impression that some of it he was kind of making up because he was trying to put forth this persona of being the Warbringer. So I almost kind of thought he was fibbing in some of the things he talked about in order to convince this very warlike race to, maybe exaggerating. Maybe it's things that he did, but he was exaggerating more in order to convince them of who he was.
I guess I took Veclin's word on it when she made it sound like, that's stuff he all did, and he did all that.
Yeah.
I didn't think she would lie.
She does, but then again, if your reputation's preceding you, even though in past, incarnations, maybe she thinks he did things that were worse than what he did.
That's true.
I think the other thing that I stumbled around with this was, I think there are too many caricatures of people. There's the Mama Odie meets Deliverance, who's the American gun owner character that feels like it's just okay. It feels like it's a character just to be there. It feels like a character just to kind of pad out a storyline. And then when we end up meeting the quote unquote rulers of this planet, or the overlords of this planet, they then in turn are very caricature like. And if I get the impression that the one guy is the father to the other one, right? Like the girl was the daughter, and the guy that had the French accent was the dad. Why are their accents so different? Why would an actor or even a director allow that choice in a portrayal and make them so different? Because the character-wise, at least their characterization was very much the same. They're very warlike. She's willing to sacrifice herself for their ideals. But then he's got
I don't think they were related. I think they were just two factions of the warring populace.
Well,
they were
the leaders.
I knew they were the leaders.
Side.
Okay, all right. So
because there were incipitants and then germinals.
Oh, that's right. There were I do remember there.
I didn't realize she was the incipitant mother, and he was a germinal princeps.
Okay, I did not.
Or as
realize
I like to call him, the Burgermeister.
Yeah.
Is it just me, or did he totally sound like the guy from all of those Rankin and Bass Christmas specials who plays the bad guy?
Well,
come on.
There was only one that he was the Burgermeister, and that's
but it wasn't he also the voice of the eagle in Rudolph and Frosty Shiny New Year, the vulture?
It was,
but
it was okay.
The Boris and Natasha kind of thing.
I'll give you that. Those two characters are similar, but yeah. But yes and no, because I think that the probably because the Burgermeister is a caricature and should be, and this one shouldn't have been, but I didn't go there, but now that you say that, I can kind of see what you mean.
It ruined the performance for me because it was such a striking, bold decision, but wrong. just so very wrong. If you're going to parody a bad guy, parody a scary bad guy so that I am afraid of you, versus the claymation bad guy that is it just didn't work. And every time he said, I will go and do the thing. And it's like, oh man, you're killing me. It's just every time he spoke, it took me out of the story.
Yeah.
Bad.
Me too.
I also struggled with why this planet was the way it was. It felt like they could have given a little better explanation of how so many Earth things kind of got mushed together from different time periods.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there was real no explanation to it.
Right.
It had a very Scarro from Genesis of the Daleks feel going on that we've regressed so far, but they never really explained it.
Right.
And they kept pointing it out. Oh, that's an Earth, blah blah blah. Oh, here's this, and it's like, is any of this going to tie back in or not? And then now it just was, just kind of establishing setting, I guess.
It kind of felt like we were going to get a mysterious planet reveal, and this was going to be Earth, but they don't go there. And I thought, well, that was kind of weird to utilize Earth-based stuff in order to, sell your characterization of the people of the planet, but then
and even call it out.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're going to just steal Earth-based stuff, just make it similar to Earth and not actually call out the acronyms of that's just this and this is this. What are they doing together?
Yeah, exactly.
And then the I agree with you, Keith. The setup was really fascinating to me. This planet that got to the point where, because we've had warlike races, that's a sci-fi trope. Okay, got it. But the fact that they built a religion out of it, and it was like, that's really kind of cool. That the Crusades, that they're to that level of, hell yeah, bring it on. And the Doctor's a little taken aback, like, oh, you want me to kill people? Yes, we're all about it. And when she went and threw herself on the sword, figuratively or literally, I'm not quite sure exactly how she died, but blew herself up, and it's like, oh, okay, this is not going anywhere where I thought this would go. I would have liked a deeper exploration of what happened on this world so many years ago that went wrong.
And had they included that would have fixed something else that I feel like there's way too much left unsaid in this story. And at times I got lost. Obviously I got really lost at one point because I thought those two related, but in hindsight, it was by design because they were going to reveal the stuff from that very last story, but I'm not sure that the payoff was there for the final story because it really felt like we were just kind of meandering through a 2-part story. I liked the idea of the Doctor, utilizing what were they called? Dead weights, these, the robots basically to convince these warring factions that he was the Warbringer because he was able to control them. So I liked that. I thought that was cool. It had a lot of little neat War Doctor moments, but not enough to pay off the meddling of the story. I do like the fact that the Doctor has to trick a computer into thinking he's dead in order to. I can't remember which story that was in, but he tricks the computer into thinking that he's dead so that he can escape. And I had a flashback to the conversation that he has with the ship in Shada when he has to convince the ship that he's dead. I thought, well, this isn't the first time he's done this.
That was such a great Doctor moment to have too. And again, kind of goes back to he's still the Doctor in there. We're still doing this thing, which is great. Are we ready to move on into 3?
Yeah, we might as well.
You guys want the synopsis?
Sure.
Savior. The truth of how events on Therius were set in motion is revealed. On a mission to destroy a Dalek harvester vessel, the War Doctor discovers a brand new breed of Dalek. Whatever action he takes next, we have seen the consequences, and they are devastating for everyone.
Okay, so as established, I enjoyed the mystery of Case. I agree with you, Glenn. I don't think we got enough of it. The whole, she's a danger to everyone. I mean, when you have Veclan saying that over and over and over again, it's just kind of like, yeah, but you're Veclan.
Yeah, right.
And because it's Veclan, if she was that much of a threat, why didn't she just kill her outright?
Right.
That is something Becklin would do.
Yeah.
So then it became, well, you're this weapon, and this is how we found you, and this is everything. And it's like, well, okay, we kind of gathered that from what there wasn't much to the story in that regard as far as her mystery. So I don't feel like putting that segment helped.
And I'm sorry, I picked up that the fact that she was a Dalek agent or whatever in episode 1.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
the mystery wasn't really there of what she was.
The fact that the voice in her head actually sounds like a Dalek to anybody else when they can hear it, it's like, okay, that's kind of cool. But I mean, it wasn't a dun 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 moment of, oh my god. It wasn't like Oswald being a Dalek,
right?
It wasn't even remotely on par with that reveal. So it was just kind of there. The Dalek harvesters finding out that this is where this ship came from, and this is why the Doctor is so desperate to save the people in the first segment, which is actually part 2, because he's the one that is crashing the ship into the planet.
Yeah,
it's like, oh,
there's
okay.
there's your aha dun 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 moment.
Yeah.
That's a nifty reveal. Okay, cool. And then we get the Time Lords showing up, doing what the Time Lords do, which is screwing everything up. So it's just like, yeah, okay.
Right.
But then for me, it was poor Albert.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
They talk about Albert.
Yeah.
As if he's a long lost companion.
Right.
And then he shows up. And we get an episode of Albert kind of being cool. He's kind of cheeky and
There's
fun.
no kind of about it. He was cool.
And he hangs for somebody who supposedly was. I kind of took it that he was from a present day Australia, although it could have been
I thought it was even older than that.
Yeah, maybe.
I thought he was like World War I, World War II Australia.
Oh, really? I didn't even place him, so I knew he was from Earth, Australia.
Yeah, he's an Australian. Okay, great. He was really rolling with it, so it's implied that he's been with the Doctor long enough that none of this stuff phases him.
Right.
And it's like, okay, cool. Albert's holding his own until he didn't.
Right.
All at the very, very end.
Yeah, just whoosh, gone. Very unceremoniously. I'm sorry, it was a Hodor moment.
Yeah.
Hold the door,
Mm-hmm.
and we're done.
Yep.
Okay, moving on. And it just felt like, wow, what a cheap shot to give the finale of this thing a little more oomph. Now, had this first segment come first, I'd still been pissed about Albert buying it, but I'd have been more shocked about it because it happened in the middle of the story. It wasn't the big climactic finale.
Mm-hmm.
It was just okay, we're going to get, oh God, Albert's dead.
Yeah.
I mean, bam. And I think that would have raised the stakes for part 2 and 3 because now anybody is suspect.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that, and we don't really know what the threat is clearly until episode 2 proper,
right.
3 overall of this ship crashing into the planet. So knowing that's coming, had episode 3 been episode 1, knowing that there's this impending doom of a ship coming and we just got blasted back 24 hours adds another level of urgency to the entire story. And then in the fact that he doesn't succeed at the end of episode 2, what would be 3, he fails. The planet's destroyed.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the fact that we're going through all of this and he's trying and then fails would have made the entire, I think, overall story have much more of an impact.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
I think
I agree with you.
Going back to Albert, nothing frustrates me more than introducing me to a really cool character who you want to know more about and you want to know their backstory and how they ended up here, only to kill him off and then not get any of that. That frustrates me to no end because you have invested me in a character only to, rip out any possibility of me of learning more about this character.
Yeah, and I suppose, it is Doctor Who, it is Big Finish, so there is an element of, we don't have to do things in sequence. We can always go back and tell more.
Well, that's true, yeah.
War Doctor Begins stories that are set between box set 1 and 2, if we decide.
Because there's obviously a great amount.
Yeah.
Well, and they've done that
especially if anything he was telling was true.
Right. Well, they've done that with, what was the War Doctor's companion? I can't remember that guy's name. Where they pretty much dispatched him, but then they went back and told that story where they were on that, where he actually got his own story on that planet. I can't remember.
Oh, the War Master.
Yeah. What did I say? War Doctor. I meant War Master.
Yeah,
Sorry. Yeah, the War Master companion.
Oh, they told all the War Master stories kind of out of order anyway.
Well, that's true, but that was an example of that particular character getting another chance, or getting more of a chance to be developed.
Sorry, Albert, we barely knew ye.
Well, anything else on this story? It's a disappointing second start. I think we all agreed that the first story in this box set wasn't stellar, but it was good, it was solid. But then for this box set to come out and follow it, it was kind of a bummer that it takes a step back, and I kind of hoped that these would kind of ramp up, and it is only the second story, or only second set, so we've got a lot more to go from here, but I'm hoping they get better.
And I want to be clear too that
this one.
It's not. I don't want to take anything away from the performances.
No, right.
Other than Burgermeister.
Well, yeah. Well, and Mama Odie, I didn't care for
that whole character was just I honestly, I'd forgotten about Mama Odie because she brought nothing to the story.
Yeah.
The whole sidestep into that environment didn't go anywhere or mean anything.
Right.
And if you really wanted to have that scene, you could have done it in so many better ways to establish these people are crazy, than to give us a very stereotypical, it just felt like redneck Cajun swamp people, with their guns, and it was Deliverance, and it was just like, come on, guys, really? Right. We got to go there?
Well, and if anything, the girl that was with them provided all of that without having to go there.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and she was a far more interesting character.
Yeah.
And it just, maybe it's because I'm American that it strikes too close to home.
Maybe.
I mean,
it's too real.
That could be
too real.
Yeah, it could be a legit concern because, let's be honest, we do know some people like this. But I don't need to be reminded of it. I listen to Doctor Who to escape this stuff.
Yeah.
And then, Cass, I don't know if you guys listen to any of the behind the scenes featurettes when they were talking about
Case.
I can't think of her name. Leela.
Louise
Jameson.
Louise Jameson. That she was the director of this set, and she gave the lady playing Cass the opportunity. It's like, well, do you want to read Case, not Cass? I did that earlier too, didn't I?
Yeah, that's okay.
When she gave the actress the opportunity, do you want to record this? We'll record all of Case's stuff and then record all of the interior monologue stuff.
Yeah.
And she was like, no, I'll just do it. And she flipped back and forth on the fly.
Yeah.
That was pretty impressive.
Incredible. That's an incredible performance.
Number one, I was convinced it was a different actress. And number two, I was convinced that they had been recorded at different times. And so to hear that in the behind the scenes, I was like, oh, wow, that was impressive.
Yeah, that just added a whole new level of wow, I'm super impressed with that. And Jonathan, once again, just nailing it.
Yeah.
As the War Doctor. So, like I said, there were things that I did like about this. I don't want to completely come out and poo-poo the set and go, it was terrible.
Right.
But yeah, it just felt like for all of the things that I liked, there were just as many things that were like, ugh.
Yeah.
They all say, who is Doctor Who?
Do you collect Doctor Who? Do you have Doctor Who items and you don't know you collect Doctor Who? For all things in the Doctor Who collecting world, tune in to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast, a Direction Point Network podcast. I am Larry Van Rosbergen, your host, and I have been collecting Doctor Who for 40 years. With popular features like collection protection and the most outrageous offer, we have a lot of fun. Available anywhere you get your podcasts. You're listening to Traveling the Vortex, a Direction Point Network podcast.
Hello, fellow time travelers, and welcome to the Doctor Who Target Book Club podcast, the only podcast to discuss, in story order, all the Doctor Who novelizations. My name is Tony Whitt, and every 2 weeks or so, I'm joined by a 2 to 3 person discussion panel, including our so-called expert who's been a Who fan since 1979. That would be me. We also get the views of intermediate, casual, and novice fans who either have never seen the show or who have never read these books until these podcasts, including
Dalton Hughes
and
Alison Fitzsafried.
You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you find good podcasts, or even ones like ours. You're listening to Traveling the Vortex, a Direction Point podcast.
All right, Sean, what do we got coming up on the schedule?
Oh, nobody knows.
Especially us.
It's a mystery.
In theory, next up...
If things go right.
If things go right and the world doesn't end by an asteroid or something, we are going to sidestep away from our War Doctor and Time War discussion, as we have done a couple of times now. This time we're going to step into Season 6B. And, of course, Season 6B starts pretty much at the end of the War Games. You have to go to the end of Season 6 before you can go to 6B. So we've already talked, obviously, about the War Games on the show. So we are going to be taking a look at the Target novelization, as well as the BBC Books short trip War Crimes, which is set during that final episode. And so we'll kind of be using that as a kickoff to some more Patrick Troughton adventures that'll be coming your way. And then in theory we'll be, as well as, no.
That's it.
That's it for that one. Okay.
Yep,
I'm looking at this all wrong. And then doing back to War Doctor begins to dip back into the Time War the following episode if things don't change.
Right.
And I'm going to leave it at that because the Vortex scheduler is very much in a state of flux at the moment with all of the potential anniversary things that are coming down the pipeline, and we're trying to stay abreast of.
It's going to become sentient.
There's a lot of lightning in the Vortex.
It's going to become sentient
This is
again.
true.
Of course, you can find us at our website, travelingthevortex.com. If you get any value out of this podcast, why not consider putting some value back into it? You can do that by clicking on our patron link and support us there. If you become a patron of this podcast, you unlock more audios and specials by us. And if you could even give just $3 a month, just as much as $3 a month, helps us immensely to keep the lights on here at Traveling the Vortex. Also, consider giving us a 5-star review wherever you subscribe to the podcast, and make sure you join in our conversations on our listeners forum on Facebook. Anything else we need to touch on before we close this one, guys? If not, until next time, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you. Thanks for listening.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.
Direction Point! Direction Point!
A Doctor Who podcast network.